There's a running joke amongst family members and people who know me, and the joke is the quip is about how I don't buy phones. I just wait until I inherit them from my mom because my mom, she's savvy. She likes new stuff. My mom is like my wife. They like new stuff. So for my wife, I think was it 2 years ago we got the new Samsung A something. I think at the time was pretty brand new. Nice phone, good camera, depth of field, all that fancy stuff. That's what we got for my wife. And I can't remember what my mom got because yeah, basically she's changing phones fairly routinely, maybe every 2 years or maybe every 3 years. Especially now that we're all grown, we're all married, and so my mom has a couple of in-laws, and of course, you know how it is. People like to take care of mother-in-law, so once in a while, someone buys her a phone. So the last time I bought a phone was when I was in Aberdeen in the United Kingdom. That was the last time that I bought a phone. I can't remember what it was, but I had a steady job then. Oh, I didn't even buy the phone. Actually, it was Patience who bought the phone. My wife, she got the phone for me. Yeah, and so that was the last phone that I bought, pretty much. Since then, I have just been inheriting phones from my mom, and the running joke is that I'm cheap. I don't buy phones for myself. I should go ahead and buy a new phone. But anyway, I figured, what's the point in buying the iPhone 13 when I think my mom has the iPhone? Gosh, I can't remember. I don't know. I've lost track of these things. Let's just say she has an 11 or maybe a 12. So I see no reason why I should hustle for the iPhone 13, or is there a 16 out? I really have no idea. So why hustle that iPhone when I know that in another year or two, when she gets a new phone, that phone is going to be mine? And in fact, the current phone that I'm using right now, the one that I use to make these recordings, and that's the reason why I tell you guys who want to start podcasts that you really don't need any fancy equipment. I make all these recordings using the internal mic um, for the internal mic on the. This is the iPhone. Oh boy, I'm not even sure what iPhone this is now. Is this 6 or 7 or something? Anyway, so this is an old iPhone pretty much, and I'm sure you guys figure out that the recording quality is great. So if you want to start a podcast, there's no need for any fancy equipment. And if you've been listening to my other podcast, that's the So You're Getting Married podcast. The that one is a Samsung Galaxy Duo. That phone has to be at least 10 years old. And the audio quality on it is fine. So if you want to start a podcast, you don't need fancy recording equipment. Hit me up in the DMs or send a voice note over here if you're interested, and we can take that conversation further. Anyway, what does all this have to do about, all this talk about cheap phones and I don't buy phones and I inherit phones and I'm a cheapskate? What does that have to do with those of us over here on the podcast? And what does it have to do about how we grow our sales? Well, it's very simple. Because I'm constantly inheriting old phones from my mom, it means that once in a while, I'm stuck having to repair a phone or two. For instance, this iPhone that I'm using, I can't remember if it's a 6 or if it's a 12, because uh, let's face it, for me, they all look the same now. All the phones look the same, so I can't tell the difference, except if I go into the internal settings. Although I have this cousin that is really good. I mean, she will just look at the back of your phone and she will tell you what phone it is. But I'm not that good. I'm not bothered. So at the time I received this phone from my mom, it already had some battery issues. Yeah, I got a power bank. I used it for a while. And then eventually I had to change the battery. That's why I changed it. There's this correct guy, Chima, at Banex. Really good work. I mean, he's fixed the battery. And since he fixed the battery, I've been going 2 days without having to charge. And then this is the same iPhone that I use for my recordings, my podcasting, all the content I put out on the blog, and everything else. My phone is my workhorse, and so it's really nice to have a full functioning battery. And so Chima did a good job, and yeah, the phone works. So how does this relate to selling? We also have another device at home. It's my wife's Samsung Galaxy Tab. That one is a really old one. Like I said, she moves on pretty quickly. when it comes to tech stuff. So we used it, we killed it, and she moved on. Now we have one of those fancy touchscreen computers that she uses. And we just thought, well, the kids are home and the kids are constantly destroying my tablet, so why not just refurbish this and give that to them? Anyway, we've gotten a new one. We've gotten a new one for them, and we had to. It was my job to get the Samsung tab replaced, and so I did what anyone would do. I asked around for referrals. Now, that's a key part of drumming up business for those of us in the wedding and the event space, referrals. So that's one thing that it has to do with it. So I reached out to my network and I'm like, hey, bro, someone who can fix tablets? And my friend Chidi go back to me and was like, yeah, sure, I know this guy. Call Kachi. He's in area 3. He repaired my this, that, he'll hook you up. And I'm like, okay, yeah, thanks, bro. And so I called Kachi. And Kachi was like, yeah, I can, he asked a couple of questions to try and describe the problems. Yeah, it's something I can check out. Bring it in. I'll need to check the something. I'm not a technical person, so I don't remember what it is that he called. So for the sake of making things up, let's just say I have to check the internal capacitor or something. So I said, okay, sure, no Allah. I'll bring it over next week Wednesday. I'm busy between now and then. And Kachi says, okay, cool, no problem. And then we got the phone. And I just thought, well, now that I'm a sales professional, I'm always noticing whenever people fall short in their sales processes. I just thought it's rather odd. Someone called you up. You said it's a referral from Chidi, and that to fix this, blah 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 blah. You guys had the conversation. Everything is everything. Money checks out, and then your own response is to say, "Okay, we'll see you next week Wednesday." You don't ask the name. I know for sure that he didn't store the number, because he never called back. So I know for sure that he didn't store the number. So you don't ask the name, you don't store the number, you just leave it like that. Actually, these are the kinds of leads that we should be pursuing. If someone calls up a referral and it looks like everything checks out expectation-wise, this might be a possible client, at the very least, you should ask the person, what's your name? Or how should I store your name? You store it on the phone, and then you use your phone as a CRM, like I've been recommending on the podcast, and then you fix the next appointment over in your calendar so that if you are Kachi in this case, and on Wednesday afternoon, let's say 3 o'clock, the fellow hasn't called back, something just pings on your phone, and you're like, oh, I was supposed to have a meeting with so and so, the person that came through from my friend Chidi. And then you make the call to remind. You say, hey, Mr. Ade, how far now? You called me last week. I thought you were going to bring in your the Samsung for repairs. How far? Are you guys no longer interested in fixing it? At that point, I'll say, oh, yeah, I am. But you know what? I had to shoot this wedding. I had to do this. I had to do this. I had to do that. Okay, I'll come tomorrow. Or when are you available? I would have scheduled another appointment. And that would be a very good way for moving the business relationship along. And these are some of these simple practical things that we talk about over here on the podcast that a lot of us don't do. Use your phone as a CRM. When someone calls, what's your name? How should I store your phone number? Who should I say called? I mean, just whatever way that works for you. You don't have to do things the way I do. But basically, get a name, store it on your phone, and schedule it down using your calendars or your note functions or your reminder functions on your phone. Now, how does this tie back to the iPhone? It ties back to the iPhone in a very simple way. A lot of us don't realize that time kills deals, so we have to move quickly. If someone says that they're going to show up on Wednesday to come and discuss wedding planning services with you, if by Wednesday afternoon they haven't showed up, then put in a call, a text message, and email something. Either do that on Wednesday or Thursday to try and get things back on track. Because when you don't, there's opportunities for things to fall off the table and for you to lose control of the sale. Now, this is where the iPhone comes in. Remember that Chidi is the one who hooked me up this referral to Kachi to fix the Samsung. But because I had problems with my iPhone and I needed an iPhone specialist, I reached out. I found Chima, and he sorted out my phone, and he sorted it out so well that Chima, in my mind, is now like the preeminent phone guy or the preeminent touchscreen computer, whatever guy. And so, one day I'm fiddling around on the iPhone. I'm happy with the battery performance, and then it just occurred to me that, oh, Chima can actually fix this Samsung. And so I call him up, and of course he asked me a couple of questions, and he's like, "Yeah, sure, no problem, bring it in," and we agree on a date. And I know for sure that Chima is going to call because he has done so in the past. Because when I was supposed to bring the iPhone in the first time, I missed the appointment, and he called up to say, "Hey, how far? What's up? Is this no longer a priority?" I mean, in summary, that was the spirit of the phone call, and that is stuff that we ought to do, and it affects the level of our profitability. So you find that one, I'm not sure what they're called. Should we call them technicians or engineers? You find one engineer doing that, asking for a name, storing it on the phone, setting up reminders, and then another one not doing the same thing. And then over time, I know that if you're going to look at this from a very transactional basis, as in it's just a Samsung Galaxy Tab, how much profit is he going to make? Now, even if he's only going to make 5K or 10K off of it, that doesn't look like a big deal. But the thing is, all this small money, the 3K, the 5K, the 10K, the 20K, it compounds over time. And you'll find that the people who behave like Chima end up becoming much more profitable than the people who behave like Kachi. And the funny thing is, Kachi might actually be the more superior engineer of the two, but it doesn't mean that he's going to be the most profitable of the two. So, what does my iPhone and the Galaxy Tab and all that have to do with those of us over here on the wedding and the event space? It's very simple. At the end of the day, it's not about our expertise, our packaging, and our branding. If we cannot follow some simple, well tested sales tactics and principles, if we can't follow these things, we're going to end up losing a lot of money. So Kachi didn't do anything wrong. The thing is just that for some reason, I discovered Chima. I have a personal history with Chima now, and it looks like Chima is my guy to now fix all this other stuff. Even though, if Kachi had done right in a sales sense, we could have closed the deal, fixed the Samsung Galaxy a whole lot earlier, and then maybe even he would have probably been the one to have worked on my on the iPhone. Now, some of you might say, "What's all this whining and complaining about? Tavishima, you're not serious. If you were serious and you wanted to give Kachi the business, you should have given Kachi the business instead of taking it to Chima." And yeah, you guys are absolutely correct. If I was serious, or if I was interested, I should have done that. But then this is where the problem lies. How are you going to grow your business as a technician, or as a wedding planner, or as a photographer, or as a plumber, or as a carpenter, and then leave the initiative to someone else? It is your business. Don't leave the initiative in the other person's hand. If the other person is unserious, why should that affect your money? If the other person is careless, why should that affect your money? If the other person can organize himself correctly, because yes, I admitted that I missed an appointment with one appointment with them both. So if the other person is unserious or unprincipled or unscheduled, why should that affect your money? You take the initiative, you build up your process, and you chase up your own money, because you're the one who is losing out and suffering when it comes to rent renewal, or paying your staff, or paying school fees, or arranging holidays. Even if it's a simple holiday, like your folks are in Lagos, you're based in Enugu, you don't want to go by road, so you have to fly. I mean, something as simple as that. 30K for you, 30K for your wife, and then maybe, I don't know, 15K each for the kids. And then since you're not going with the car, you have to schedule, set aside some running around money. Maybe that's another 20 or 30K. Those things adds up, and you're not even traveling abroad. So it's really important that we pay attention, because because time kills deals, basically. And if we're sloppy with all these simple things, taking people's names, scheduling reminders, things like that, we're going to end up losing a lot over the long term. Right now, we don't think it's a lot because it's small money. I only missed one wedding. After all, I wouldn't have made much on it. I would have only made 100K or 150K. It's not a problem. But the thing is, you're doing that routinely 6 or 7 times a year, and if your profit margin on each was only going to be 100K, that is a good 600 or 700K, phantom loss. It's a phantom loss because, well, you don't know that in principle you could have had it. In fact, I didn't realize how important these things were until I started using invoicing software, because for invoicing software, whichever one you use, by the way, I'm not recommending anyone in particular, your invoicing software will give you a clear picture at the end of the day of how many invoices you issued and for what total amount. And I was surprised one day at the end of the year when I looked at one of my invoices and I saw that for quotes that I put out and I hadn't collected on, the amount was over 7 million. I mean, that was shocking. So I just thought to myself, like, wow. So let's say I was really on my sales game for that year and I was only able to close a quarter of this outstanding 7M. That could have been some good money. Not bad. I know some of you will say that, well, that's not life-changing. But the thing is, actually, it's not bad. So, maybe that's another tip. If you don't have invoicing software, start using invoicing software. It's going to blow your mind. You'll be surprised that all these quotes that you give, somebody asks for a quote, you give a quote, but then you don't follow up. You'll just find out that all those things that you never followed up on, outstanding revenue that you could have collected. In my own case was 7M. You'd be surprised. In your own case, what it might amount to. It might amount to 10, 20, 30. It depends. So, yeah. That's it. So that's what my iPhone and battery woes and computer woes have to do with sales and selling. Time kills deals. Don't let time get into the picture, and don't let other people take responsibility for your own money. You take responsibility for your own money. So they call, get all the details you need, store the contact, schedule it, and then carry on with the follow-up accordingly. So thank you very much for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja-based sales consultant and event media professional, Tavishima Agide. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I'll catch you guys at the next recording.